it's Ruth Marie Hamilton. Welcome to my podcast, The Fiddler's Scroll, where I talk about the things that are worrying me because I'm realizing I'm not a particularly original person. So if I'm worrying about something, probably someone else is worrying about it too. Today, I am going to talk to you about war, and not the kind of war we see on the news. I am talking about the kind of war which is not seen because it is spiritual. And I don't want to get into the weeds of who we fight against is. Some of you will call it the evil inclination, some of you will call it Satan. Honestly, you guys, I'm not really concerned with what we're going to call it. All I know is it is out there, it is disseminating darkness, it is disseminating fear, and apparently it has an internet connection because there seem to be a lot of voices on the internet backing it up. And they say all manner of dreadful things. They say things like, oh, if you get past a certain age, no one will marry you. Oh, if you get past a certain age, you won't be able to have children. Oh, if you don't have children, your life will be empty and worthless. Oh, you're sick. Well, that's probably your fault and you'll never get well. Oh, your finances will never be sorted out. Oh, you'll never manage to get that degree. I don't know what you're going through. But I know, because we live in a broken world, that everyone is facing something. So today, I thought about it. We're going to tackle these lies, these little pieces of propaganda that hell seems to be spewing onto the internet, and we are going to do it the only way I know how, with the Bible, because the Bible is our source of hope, and the Bible is our source of comfort. And I was thinking about all the things I could say in regard to the lies I am seeing in the world. And I realized, really, at the end of the day, my opinions are not worth much because I'm just another voice on the internet. But there are opinions in this book. Well, they're not opinions so much as they are truths, and they are deeply comforting. And today we are going to deal with the fact that when you do the right thing in life, when you trust God, when you walk in His ways, when you are on God's time frame and not the time frame of the world, not only will you feel odd and strange and worried, you're also going to be attacked. Because let me tell you something, when you side with God, there's something out there that doesn't like it. And I hope today, if you're getting pummeled by the other side, regardless of what you call it, regardless of what you think it is, I hope this gives you some hope and some comfort. So the verses today that I have for us that I think are going to be really comforting are as follows. So take a deep breath, let it out, and just focus on the Bible. We're just going to make a focus from the things that are frightening us. Those things will still be there for us at the end of this, so no one's going to steal our problems. But for the next few seconds, let's just focus on what the Bible has to say about war. Second Chronicles, chapter 20, verse 17. You need not fight in this battle. Station yourselves. Stand and see the salvation of the Lord on your behalf, O Judah and Jerusalem. Do not fear or be dismayed. Tomorrow go out and face them, for the Lord is with you. Psalm 24, verse 8. Who is the King of glory? The Lord, strong and mighty. The Lord, mighty in battle. Psalm 140, verse 7. O God the Lord, the strength of my salvation, you have covered my head in the day of battle. Exodus chapter 14, verse 14. The Lord will fight for you while you keep silent. Joel chapter 3, verse 9. Proclaim this among the nations. Prepare a war. Rouse the mighty men. Let all the soldiers draw near, let them come up. Deuteronomy chapter 20, verse 4. For the Lord your God is the one who goes with you, to fight for you against your enemies, to save you. And here is a verse I really like. 2 Chronicles chapter 32, verse 8. We will circle back to this verse in its context, but this is talking about someone coming to attack a country, and this is what God says. With him is only an arm of flesh, but with us is the Lord our God to help us and to fight our battles. And the people relied on the words of Hezekiah, the king of Judah. Okay. The Bible is full of many different kinds of writing. It's got poetry in there, it's got romance in there, it's got history in there. But at the start of the Bible, there is a lot of law. And if you don't know the law, you'll never understand the book. So if you're thinking, oh, I think I'd like to read the Bible, I think that's a wonderful idea. And I recommend you read it all. Because in order for us to gain comfort from today's pieces of scripture, we have to start with the law. So the way the Bible works is like this, right? You get the story of how God created the world, and then you get the story of how he saved it from the flood. And then I'm moving through this rather rapidly. Obviously, there are other things, but it's a thick book, and you don't have all day. So then we move to Abraham, and Abraham gets called by God out of his country. I think it's Ur of the Chaldeans, and God makes Abraham the promise he's going to make him a great and powerful nation. And then we see Abraham and Sarah have a child, and then we see that child get married. Isaac marries Rebecca, and then we see the emergence of the Jewish nation, and then we see them go into slavery in Egypt, and then we see God call them out of Egypt through the prophet Moses. That's where we get the story of the Red Sea. And then we see the giving of the law at Sinai. Now, the giving of the law is really important. Doesn't matter what your religion is. If you want to understand this book, you've got to read the law. It's absolutely essential to understanding the book. So, today's topic that is really burning inside me to the point I cannot leave it alone is the topic that when we do the right thing, it will be contested every single time. It just will be. It appears to be one of the rules of the universe. So in order for this to work, I have to read you something from the law in Deuteronomy chapter 12. The reason this is important will become clear as we proceed with this podcast. So it'll probably sound a bit random, but it shall become clear. Okay, Deuteronomy chapter 12. Okay, I think this is Moses speaking. This is part of Moses giving the law to the children of Israel. Which is just, by the way, children of Israel doesn't actually just mean children. It means the people of Israel, but the Bible always says children of Israel because Jacob's name was changed to Israel, and that's actually where we get the name for the state of Israel today. Interesting fact. But so where it says children of Israel, it's talking about the whole congregation. So this is Moses explaining some of the law that's coming from God. These are the decrees and laws you must be careful to follow in the land that the Lord, the God of your ancestors, has given you to possess, as long as you live in the land. Destroy completely all the places on the high mountains, on the hills, and under every spreading tree, where the nations you are dispossessing worship their gods. Break down their altars, smash their sacred stones, and burn their Asherah poles in the fire. Cut down the idols of their gods and wipe out their names from those places. This is very important, you guys. You must not worship the Lord your God in their way, but you are to seek the place that the Lord your God will choose from among all your tribes to put his name there for his dwelling. To that place you must go. There bring your burnt offerings and sacrifices, your tithes and special gifts that you have vowed to give, and your freewill offerings, and the firstborn of your herds and flocks. There, in the presence of the Lord your God, you and your family shall eat, and shall rejoice in everything you have put your hand to, because the Lord your God has blessed you. Okay, so what God's saying here is when you go into the land that I'm giving you, you are going to find there are many religious places in this land. And there are lots of places where the people who have been living in the land and doing very evil things, by the way, which is why they lost the land, you are going to find a lot of places where there are altars and there are sacred groves and there are places that have religious history. God is saying to the people of Israel, he's saying, don't go in there and just switch the God. If you find an Asherah bowl, you find a high place, you find an altar, do not just think, oh, great, an altar, fantastic, we'll just change the God and start worshipping here. God's saying, no way. You're going to worship me where I tell you to worship me. That's what God's saying. So it's really important. This is very specific. God's got a way, and God's saying, I'm going to be quite careful about where this is carried out. So what happens is there's a whole lot of stuff I won't get into, but they do end up with a temple. Takes a while, and that is where all of this goes on. So just keep this in mind that according to the Jewish law, they were not at liberty to just go around making their little sacrifices willy-nilly wherever they felt like it. There was a time and there was a place to make these sacrifices, and God chose the place. And now we are going to move quite a long way forward in the Bible. I know I jump around a lot. The goal here is not really to teach you what's in the Bible so much, because between you and me, I'm not really qualified to do that. I'm not a Bible scholar, and sometimes I struggle a great deal with doctrine. I'm not even very good at understanding how religion works. But what I do is I read the Bible diligently, and I think about it, and I try and work out what God's trying to reveal. And the reality is that my goal is to really get you to open it for yourself, because there's a very high chance that you're actually cleverer than me and you will get much more deep insights, but you won't get insights from the Bible unless you open the book. So we are now jumping a long way forward, okay? So we've gone from Moses with the children of Israel, with the Jewish people in the desert getting God's law, and we're going all the way through to where they now have a temple and they have a royal family, and there's been a whole lot of stuff going on to get there, and there have been a lot of kings at this point, and many of them have been very, very evil, and they've actually rebelled against God, and they've been running around doing exactly what they were told not to do in Deuteronomy, and they have been setting up little Asherah poles, and they've been doing little sacrifices on the high places, and they have been making sacrifices outside the temple where they weren't allowed to do it. This is really interesting, because sometimes when you decide you are going to walk in the ways of God, it sets up quite an illusion of you doing the exact opposite. Because if people don't understand the law, they won't understand the book. And if they don't understand the book, they're going to get it a bit wrong when they try and judge how closely you are adhering to the book. And this is precisely what happens with a king by the name of Hezekiah. And I shall now read this to you because it becomes very, very interesting moving forward. Okay, we're now in one of my favourite parts of the Bible because it has some jolly good stories in it. I highly recommend you check it out. 2 Chronicles, although if you're going to just check it out for the great stories, maybe start in 1 Chronicles because it will make a bit more sense. But today we're in 2 Chronicles. And yes, Hezekiah has become king, and Hezekiah is a rarity in the Bible. He's a king who's going to do the right thing. The amount of kings that the Bible sums them up by saying, and he did evil in the eyes of the Lord, is really quite depressing. But we have today a very, very good king. We have Hezekiah. So we are in 2 Chronicles 31. Now, when all this was finished, all Israel who were present went out to the cities of Judah and broke down the pillars in pieces, cut down the Asherim, and pulled down the high places and the altars throughout all of Judah and Benjamin, as well as in Ephraim and Manasseh, until they had destroyed them all. You see, previously, the nation of Israel had been forgetting God and forgetting the law, and they had been doing exactly what they were told not to, putting up these little alternative places of worship, which God said don't do it. So there's been complete repentance. They are tearing it down. They're getting rid of these things. They're ripping them to the ground, saying, that's it, we're going to do it. We're going to do what God said. Then all the sons of Israel returned to their cities, each to his possession. And Hezekiah, very good king, and Hezekiah appointed the divisions of the priests and the Levites by their divisions, each according to his service, both the priests of the Levites for burnt offerings and for priest offerings, to minister and to give thanks to praise in the gates of the camp of the Lord. Remember I told you in the last podcast that the Levites got the priestly blessing? That's what's going on here. They're being set up to do their job. The reforms continued. He also appointed the king's portion of his goods for the burnt offerings, namely for the morning and the evening burnt offerings, and the burnt offerings for the Sabbaths and for the new moons and for the fixed festivals, as it is written in the law of the Lord. Also, he commanded the people who lived in Jerusalem to give the portion due to the priests and the Levites, that they might devote themselves to the law of the Lord. I just break in here to say that, you know how I said if you don't read the law, you'll never understand the book. This is a prime example. This is the reason when you read the Bible, you've got to read all of it, and you've got to get your head around the law, because it's through the law that is the lens we view the whole book, and it's best to have as much of it up here as possible. But just be aware that you can find all of this back in the law if you choose to go looking for it. This is a restoration of righteousness. This is what's going on. There's been a lot of wickedness, and Hezekiah is stepping up, and he's found the law, and he's like, nah, we're going to do this God's way. And as soon as the order spread, and the sons of Israel provided in abundance in the first fruits of grain, new wine, oil, honey, and all the produce of the field, and they brought in abundantly the tithe of all. And the sons of Israel and Judah, who lived in the cities of Judah, also brought in the tithe of oxen and sheep, and the tithe of sacred gifts which were consecrated to the Lord, and placed them in heaps. And in the 3rd month they began to make these heaps, and finished them by the 7th month. And when Hezekiah and the rulers came and saw the heaps, they blessed the Lord and his people Israel. Then Hezekiah questioned the priests and the Levites concerning the heaps. And Azariah said of the chief priest of the house of Zadok said to him, since the contributions began to be brought into the house of the Lord, we have had enough to eat, with plenty left over, for the Lord has blessed his people with this great quantity left over. Then Hezekiah commanded them to prepare rooms in the house of the Lord, and they prepared them. And they faithfully brought in the contributions and tithes and consecrated things. And Konaratha, I'm so sorry, I bet I'm saying that wrong, the Levite, was the officer in charge of them, and his brother Shimeon was second. And oh dear, there's a whole lot of words here I can't actually pronounce. Do you know what? You should look it up for yourself. This is a very good example of why you should always open the Bible for yourself, and not just rely on some random voice on the internet, because I am now going to skip these names because I don't think I can say any of them. But the point is that there's a whole lot of people, and they're doing their jobs properly. Okay. And okay. Well, there seems to be a lot more names I can't pronounce. The point is, in this chapter, they are returning to the Lord. They have ripped down the Asherah poles. They have ripped down the alternative places of worship. The priests have been put back. They're being properly provided for, and the nation is on track. And it's getting back to righteousness. And this is very good. But, as is so typical, when you choose to do the right thing and stand with God, and not everyone's going to like it. So, I recommend you go read Chronicles 2, 2 Chronicles, chapter 31, for yourself, because I cannot pronounce all the names in the end of it, so I'm going to leave it. And we're now going to move on to chapter 32. Where things get interesting, because sometimes when you serve the Lord, you don't immediately get a whole lot of blessings. Oh no, sometimes you get big problems, and that is exactly what is about to happen to the ancient land of Israel. We now come to the part of the Bible where a particularly foul little creature by the name of Sennacherib turns up. Right. After these acts of faithfulness, Sennacherib, those were the acts of faithfulness by Hezekiah. After these acts of faithfulness, Sennacherib, king of Assyria, came and invaded Judah and besieged the fortified cities, and thought to break them for himself. Now, When Hezekiah saw that Sennacherib had come and that he intended to make war on Jerusalem, he decided with his officers and his warriors to cut off the supply of water from the springs which were outside the city, and they helped him. So many people assembled and stopped up all the springs and the stream which flowed through the region, saying, "Why should the kings of Assyria come and find abundant water?" And he took courage and rebuilt all the wall that had been broken down and erected towers on it and built another outside wall and strengthened the Milo in the city of David and made weapons and shields in great number. And he appointed military officers over the people and gathered them to him in the square at the city gate and spoke encouragingly to them, saying, "Be strong and courageous. Do not fear or be dismayed because of the king of Assyria, nor because of all the multitude that is with him. For the one which is with us is greater than the one that is with him. For with him is only an arm of flesh, but with us is the Lord our God to help us and fight our battles." And the people relied on the words of Hezekiah, king of Judah. Right. After this, Sennacherib, king of Assyria, sent his servants to Jerusalem while he was besieging Lachish with all his forces with him against Hezekiah, king of Judah, and against all of Judah who were in Jerusalem, saying, "Thus says Sennacherib, king of Assyria, on what are you trusting, that you are remaining in Jerusalem under siege? Is not Hezekiah misleading you to give yourselves over to die by hunger and by thirst, saying, 'The Lord our God will deliver us from the hand of the king of Assyria'? Has not the same Hezekiah taken away his high places and his altars and said unto Judah and Jerusalem, 'You shall worship before one altar, and on it you shall burn incense'?" You see, this Sennacherib character has not read the Jewish law, and he is just observing with his little eyeballs, and he's like, "Oh wow, they've been ripping down altars and Asherah poles for the last I don't know how long. Their God won't like that, because less altars means less worship, alright? Ha! This is the perfect time for me to just rock in and take Israel off them." Okay, that's not actually in there. That's like my little creative mind, but it is in there that Sennacherib's like, "I know what you've been doing. You've been tearing down the Asherah poles and the altars, and you've been saying you can only worship in one place." That is because Sennacherib doesn't understand what God requires, and Sennacherib is getting confused by his own little imaginations, unguided by actually reading the Bible. And here we have Sennacherib being an even bigger jerk. I do not like the Sennacherib character. I really do not. So Sennacherib says, "Do you not know what I and my fathers have done to all the peoples of the lands? Were the gods of the nations of the lands able to at all deliver their land from my hand? Who was there among all the gods of those nations which my fathers utterly destroyed, who could deliver his people out of my hand? That your God should be able to deliver you from my hand. Now therefore, do not let Hezekiah deceive you or mislead you like this, and do not believe him, for no God of any nation or kingdom was able to deliver his people from my hand or from the hand of my fathers. How much less shall your God deliver you from my hand?" Guys, this is pretty typical. When you decide you're going to side with God, expect opposition. Expect opposition. And his servant spoke further against the Lord God and against his servant Hezekiah. Also, when you stand with God, expect the propaganda campaign to start. There will always be little minions on the side of darkness who will get on board with this and try and make it very difficult for you to stay the course and trust in the Lord. And this is exactly what this horrible little Sennacherib character does. He also wrote letters to insult the Lord God of Israel and to speak against him, saying, As the gods of the nations of the lands have not delivered their people from my hand, so the God of Hezekiah shall not deliver his people from my hand. And they called this out with a loud voice in the language of Judah and to the people of Jerusalem who were on the wall, to frighten them and to terrify them, so that they might take the city. And they spoke of the God of Jerusalem as of the gods of the peoples of earth, the work of men's hands. So typical, you guys. So typical. Doesn't matter what you're facing. Doesn't matter what you're facing. If you decide you're going to face it with the God of the Bible, there will always be a voice that says, that won't work. It hasn't worked for other people. It won't work for you. And don't think your God will save you, because there are a lot of systems and philosophies and gods out there, and they haven't saved other people, so why would you be any different? But it is different, and Hezekiah understood that. And as much as I loathe Sennacherib, I love Hezekiah, and we're about to find out why. Very scary. Big problem. But King Hezekiah and Isaiah the prophet, the son of Amos, prayed about this and cried out to heaven. And the Lord sent an angel who destroyed every mighty warrior, commander and officer in the camp of the king of Assyria. So he returned in shame to his own land. And when he had entered the temple of his God, some of his own children killed him there with the sword. So the Lord saved Hezekiah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem from the hand of Sennacherib, the king of Assyria, and from the hand of all others, and guided them on every side. And many were bringing gifts to the Lord at Jerusalem, and choice presents to Hezekiah, king of Judah, so that he was exalted in the sight of all of the nations thereafter. You guys, I do not know what battles you are facing. And I do not know what lies you have to constantly go to war with inside your own head. But I know there will be something, because there is always something. And when you are in the thick of a battle, there will always be propaganda. There will always be voices like Sennacherib who say, oh, that won't work. Haven't you seen what happened to other people? And don't think God is going to make any difference. But you guys, the truth is, God makes all the difference. We live in a very broken world. We live in a very frightening world. We do not have to go to war to be engaged in battle. In fact, these days it seems more and more like we're all engaged in some kind of battle. And there are many, many, many lies being spread about. And many of these lies, they sound on the surface like different lies. But the more I dig into them, they seem to all be one lie. And it seems to be the lie of Sennacherib. And it seems to be the lie of, oh, I wouldn't bother trusting in God if I was you. I really don't think that will make so much difference. Something terrible is coming, and it's all your fault. And God won't be able to save you from the inevitable terribleness of what is coming. It's such a big lie. And we need to be like Hezekiah, and we need to be like Isaiah, and we need to trust the Bible, and we need to have courage. And most of all, you guys, we need to read it, because you know what really tripped up Sennacherib? He hadn't read the Bible. He hadn't gone and read the law. So when he was getting information that the Jews were running around, tearing down their Asherah poles in their high places, he thought he was looking at the exact opposite. He was like, oh, well, this will be making them weak. Their God won't like that. Whereas actually, that's exactly what God did want, because it was obeying his law. So, as you go through life, as you lean on God, as you trust God, know that there will be opposition. There will always be opposition. In fact, my family is inclined to feel that when the opposition comes, it's proof we're being effective. And like I say, I don't want to get into theological weeds of what that disseminator of darkness is. But I think it's rooted in hell, and I think hell has an internet connection. And beyond that, I will not say, because I'm not very good at doctrine. And even that is more of an artistic device to get across how I'm feeling than an actual belief. But I think you know what I'm saying. There is a darkness out there, and there is something out there that seeks to depress us and take our eyes off God, but we have a choice, and we must not let it. And the final thing I want to leave you with is this, because sometimes it's easy to feel like we're so powerless, you guys, and that we have no power to move the needle on anything, that we're not big political people, we don't have an army, and what can we do? Well, we can pray. And I am becoming more and more convinced that it's actually prayer that moves the needle, and that everything we see in the physical realm is powered by the stuff we can't see. So when you are afraid, when you have Sennacherib, because you know Sennacherib, he's a pesky little devil. He keeps turning up in many forms. So if you've got a Sennacherib in your life, really getting on your case saying, oh, don't think the Lord's going to save you from whatever your battle is, and it's different for all of us, here is something I think will really help you. This is Psalm 140. It's a prayer written by David, another very mighty king of Israel who loved the Lord. And I feel like this is our strength and this is our weapon. So you can find this in the Bible. It's Psalm 140, and I shall read it because I think it is of great comfort. Rescue me, O Lord, from evil men. Preserve me from violent men who devise evil things in their hearts. They continually stir up wars. They sharpen their tongues as a serpent. Poison of a viper is under their lips. Keep me, O Lord, from the hands of the wicked. Preserve me from violent men who have purposed to trip up my feet. The proud have hidden a trap for me and cords. They have spread a net by the wayside. They have set snares for me. I said to the Lord, Thou art my God. Give ear, O Lord, to the voice of my supplications. O God, the Lord of the strength of my salvation, Thou hast covered my head in the day of battle. Do not grant, O Lord, the desires of the wicked. Do not promote his evil device, lest they be exalted. As for the head of those who surround me, may the mischief of their lips cover them. May the burning coals fall upon them. May they be cast into the fire, into deep pits from which they cannot rise. May a slanderer not be established in the earth. May evil hunt the violent man speedily. I know the Lord will maintain the cause of the afflicted and justice for the poor. Surely the righteous will give thanks to thy name. The upright will dwell in thy presence. You guys, whatever battle you're facing, there will always be a Sennacherib breathing down your neck, making you discouraged. But you guys, it doesn't matter, because we have the Bible. And that means that we have access to Hezekiah, and we have access to Isaiah, and we have access to Moses, and we have access to all the prophets, and we have access to all the people who came before us and who proved through their lives that God is faithful and God can be trusted. And even if the results are not what we expected or even hoped for, we can trust that God knows exactly what he's doing, because he is the great novelist and we are characters in his story. And if we trust him, it's going to turn out all right in the end. So if you're going through a very, very tough time, it will come good in the end. Just stay the course, take a deep breath, you will be all right. Takes a while, but you will be all right. And that is my prayer for you, that you will find strength to keep going through what you're going through and trust in the Lord. I hope this has been of some comfort to you, but most of all, I hope you open the good book for yourself, because just like we can't tune a fiddle without a scroll, we need the Bible to tune the soul. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.